and welcome everybody. Today I am joined by a special guest, Kyle Martin Lipton, who meets at the intersection of comedy and consciousness. His sense of humour and depth makes for an epic experience to attend, whether it's a speech, comedy act, or a private session. He's been called the clairvoyant comedian. Kyle thinks it's time we all enlighten up and realise transformation doesn't have to be so serious, which actually can make it more powerful. His purpose is to reveal the cosmic joke. Kyle, thank you so much for coming on here with me today.
Oh, it's such a joy. I'm so glad and just honored to be here with you.
So the last time we actually did record this interview that was meant to go out, it was actually last December of 2019. And I had thought I'd stored it to my cloud because that's what I have all my episodes that I have to edit. And when I went to look to edit the podcast, it had disappeared off every file, every place that could possibly be. So I was like, okay, we're meant to have this conversation again. So thank you for being trusting of the process and coming back again.
Oh my God, I was so excited to do it again. And I just feel, I have much more to share than last time. And yeah, it's all perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2020, what are your thoughts on, the theme, I suppose, like we're talking about moving from fear to trust, and what's your perspective on how we can actually move from fear to trust when there's so much destructuring, so much upheaval, uncertainty, chaos, no matter where you stand in the world?
Yeah.
Hear what you think.
I think what's happening in 2020 is a call to trust. And it's 2020 is a result of what happens when we allow fear to take over our lives. All the subtle things like, oh, that relationship that's comfortable, but I know isn't true to me, I'm staying in. That job I know is not true to me, but I'm staying in. That moment I could have spoke my truth, but I like gulped down everything that was inside of me and buried it. All of those things, if we were just going to do a math problem, equate to 2020, because 2020 is this year of massive awakening. So everything that's dormant inside of us is really, upheaving, and 2020 looks like a shit show, but that's because everything that was going on inside of us was a shit show collectively.
Yeah.
And now it's just getting masked, and now it's just getting masked.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of taking the masks off and putting the masks on at the same time, ironically. And, people say things like, I just want to go back to normal. And it's like, there's normal fucking sucked. If we're just honest about what normal actually was. And it's a real year of, I was saying this to you before we jumped on, like hearing the whispers before you have to hear the screams. Like life has been, if we're really honest with ourselves and we slow down, which is, something a lot of people don't do in this society, we'd really start to see, oh, this isn't working. Oh, I'm out of integrity here. Oh, I'm not speaking my truth. And because we've ignored that whisper, then life gets a little louder and then knocks and then screams. And then that manifests maybe as an illness, or manifests as fear, or manifests as your relationship blowing up out of nowhere. But really it wasn't out of nowhere because you just didn't do the dirty work, in a sense, and just get really gritty and honest with yourself about what's true for you, and then have the courage to live from that. So how to go from fear to trust, to me, is realizing fear is not going to work. That's the cosmic joke. And the cosmic joke is realizing you'll never get what you want from that. It's like fighting for peace. The more I fight, of course, like a revolution can happen and we could change consciousness, but at the end of the day, if we're all in a collective vibration of fighting, we're not peaceful. And our goal is to get to peace. And I think, for example, when we're stuck in fear and let's say we don't leave the relationship because it's comfortable, all that happens because it's comfortable is our body feels uncomfortable. And we don't want our bodies to feel uncomfortable deep down, but we kind of play this game with ourselves. We play cosmic peekaboo, and we're like, I feel okay here. And we lie to ourselves. And my calling is just to be like, don't lie to yourself. And also realize that what you actually want, you'll never get from fear. That's the cosmic joke. Because we think we're going to get what we want when we're in that egoic kind of fear spiral. And we're like, oh no, if I just keep overthinking, I'm going to find the answer. If I just keep, ruminating on it, then the answer will come. And it's like, no, the answer won't come. All that's going to happen is your overthinking is a manifestation of you not trusting yourself.
Mhm.
And what I know for myself, and I went through my own process with this today, is when I'm in complexity, I know I'm at some level lying to myself, or I'm some level in fear, or I'm in this like pattern of confusion, trying to figure everything out. And if I really just slow down for a moment and was just super duper honest with myself, I would realize, no, there's actually nothing to be confused about, which makes me a better leader in the sense where I have full love and compassion because I understand that for myself. But I also have this no bullshit, like what are we actually talking about here? And that's what I love to do with people in channeling sessions. Like I love to give people clarity, but I also love to support them in empowerment.
Mhm.
Because sometimes I do these live streams where people ask questions and I do channelings for them and like psychic readings. And someone will come on and be like, are me and Luis going to get back together? And sometimes my spirit doesn't let me answer that question because no matter what I say, you're still disempowered. If I say you and Luis are breaking up tomorrow or you and Luis are going to be together forever, you're still unsettled in your spirit because you're not being honest with yourself.
Mhm.
So if I was in a session with that person, I would say, where are you not being honest with yourself and what do you truly feel? Because empowerment to me is so much more important than getting some answer and then still feeling, fucked up in the
Yeah.
head afterwards, trying to figure it out. Like no matter what I tell you, my this guy named Peter Crone, who's a really amazing speaker and like he supports athletes and celebrities and just has a lot of wisdom. He said this thing and he's like, the ego thrives on what almost works.
Hmm.
It's like, it's almost, how would I describe it? It's a hunger that can never fully be satisfied. So we just keep eating only to realize we'll never actually get what we want. We'll
Yeah.
never actually feel the satiation that we desire.
So where can we get that from?
From truth.
Yeah.
And just being honest with ourselves and taking time just to even feel ourselves. We're so hyper stimulated. We don't have a lot of time to be with ourselves.
Mhm.
So I think there's two routes. One is slowing down. I mean, that's always the route, to be honest. But slowing down to feel what's actually most alive and honest for you. And two, expressing that, which automatically is going to slow your nervous system and body down because you're not consumed with this fear and erratic energy that comes from being in hiding.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask you, how did you get into this work? Because, I'd love, yeah, just for everyone listening, like, were you
Yeah.
always this confident? Were you always this, articulate? And I'd love to hear what led you to this place.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm flattered. So I got into personal development when I was around 14 or 13. I was a basketball player and I wanted to play professionally. And every single time I got on the court, I just metaphorically shit my pants. I was so nervous
Mhm.
and just was wondering what everyone else is thinking. And I faced this demise that was essentially devoting my life towards something. And then every time I get out on the court, I just felt like the total opposite of my devotion to it because of my nervousness and my lack of confidence. So for me, that kind of set me on this journey of learning to become more confident, looking at YouTube videos and things that would support me in that process. And I was just really a self-starter in so many ways, just because I didn't want to be in pain.
Mhm.
Um, I've been fortunate to have some really amazing mentors to help me as well come into deeper truth. Like one of my good buddies, Warren Harris, who's been like a mentor to me and also just like a great friend. He's helped me see a lot of different perspectives that just make sense. For example, how speaking your truth is really the only way to go, and how really at a deeper level, we're all transparent to each other. There's really no such thing as privacy and consciousness. We're all just, we can pretend. And at some level, it's just kind of hilarious to me because we all know what's going on at some level, but we just never admit it sometimes. So we could all be in an argument or a discussion. Like today, for example, I was in the middle of a sort of a family meeting, and there was an argument that happened, and what I shared was just what's actually going on. Because sometimes in a relationship, you'll just ping pong back, like your defensiveness triggers mine, and you never actually solve the deeper level. And it's just like, what are we talking about? We could go all day and never really get to the root. And yeah, it's there's so much I could say on the topic of how I got into it. One, like my journey with, I had a sexual trauma when I was a kid where I had a sexual experience with a friend of mine, and I just internalized that. And I just had all these thoughts of like, am I gay? Am I this? Am I that? And that I didn't tell anyone until I was 13. And then I broke down in the car with my dad, just expressing that level of vulnerability and fear that I felt. And that sent me on my own journey of healing. Yeah. So the sort of beginning of the pendulum was basketball. And then, you know, the end of the pendulum's like channeling, psychic abilities, mentors, ayahuasca, like all
Yeah.
this, you know, you think you're going to go to YouTube and end up with how to turn your negative thoughts to positive thoughts. And you just end up in some foreign country drinking ayahuasca or something. Not that I drink it a lot, but it was, yeah, just funny to see all the in-betweens of that.
And I'd love to see like your journey this year, like that you were based in LA and then you all of a sudden took off to the UK.
Yeah. So actually, this year's been pretty nuts in the best way possible. So it was crazy. Actually, about this time last year in November, I just had this soul calling to move to New York. I didn't know why, but I just really felt such a strong resonance, like I needed to go. It was a bit of a leap of faith to go back to trust.
Yeah.
And I moved in November, and then we interviewed in December. But so I lived there for about 8 months, just, and that was its whole magical journey in of itself. And then in December, and this is November of 2019, and then in December, I found out that my dad was diagnosed with liver cancer. And it was really, really difficult to experience that because I didn't know that was coming in a sense. But what was interesting to me is in October, I had this really powerful journey. And then the next day I was going to go for a walk. I was living in San Diego at the time for a couple of months. I was staying at a friend's, and I was about to leave and this crow flew in. And I was kind of pissed off, like, fuck, man, now I have to deal with this crow flying in the house. I just want to go for a peaceful walk. And it took about 45 minutes. This crow was like thinking the window is like out and it's just dive bombing into this window. And then afterwards, after I got it out, I just decided to look up the spiritual meaning of a crow. And it was an omen for death. And I had this just feeling inside myself of truth and resonance. And I tried to kind of lie to myself a little, or just be like, maybe that's not true. Maybe it's a metaphorical death. And then, 2 months later, I get the call from my dad saying that he has liver cancer, which was, he's had health problems my whole life, but at the same time, you just never, it kind of was like an oncoming truck. Just didn't know that that was coming. And he told me that in December. And then, about 2 months later, he passed away. And that was just such a fucking surreal experience for me to just see someone's lifeless body. I flew in on the 18th of February, and he literally stayed alive to see me. And I got to see him for about an hour and a half. I just told him I loved him and I would see him in the morning. And then I woke up to the news that he had passed on. He was in hospice at the house. And it was just I had so many emotions. It was just crazy to see like your own father or someone you love so much dead in front of you.
Yeah.
And I'd never experienced anything like that. And it really just humbled me on a whole new level and just brought so much compassion to my life. Yeah. And then, I guess segue on that. I moved. I went back to New York. I was there till about July, and then I went to LA to stay with my family for a little bit, for about a month. And then I had just this incredible month in Tulum, Mexico, where just a whole nother synchronicity filled journey. And then came back to LA, was there for about 2 months. And then, so this woman named Virginia Salas Castillo, who you actually interviewed, we'd been kind of like connected on social, but never really engaged much. I mean, she'd seen some of my videos, I'd comment on some of her content, but we weren't like homies.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she reached out to me or I reached out to her, or like just the conversation naturally unfolded, but she asked me about collaborating on a comedy video. And so we jumped on a Zoom, and she was kind of, I guess she messed up on the time or something. She was like, oh, I can only talk for 2 minutes. And I was kind of pissed off. I'm like, I'd set this time on my calendar and you can only talk for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And yeah, then about 4 minutes into the conversation, so she gracefully extended to an extra 2 minutes. Um,
Yeah.
First of all, I was just feeling so blessed about that. I just like, oh my God, thank you. These 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And yeah, then she was like, I think you should move to England. First we talked about collaborating on comedy, and she brought up some cool ideas, and she was like, I think you should move here. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, this is a lot of information for me to take in this moment, but
Yeah.
I'm really open. That sounds amazing. And then, yeah, some phone calls later, booking a flight later, I literally moved, packed a suitcase and a little duffel bag. And the day of the election, I flew into the UK. And so it was about a week
Yeah.
of, which is crazy because I moved to New York in about November 1st. And then I moved here on the 4th of 2019 and 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm in this really epic creation castle, and her and I have just been creating so many epic things together. And I'm really, really excited to share our magic. We're like creative soulmates. And it's just so easy and effortless, and just so much fun and joy and juice and excitement, and just really feeling like someone gets me on a deep level and can hold me in that way. Because sometimes I feel like when we're so committed to truth, it can bring up people's own walls and spaces where they can't hold space.
Yeah.
And it's just been a great experience for me to just really let my walls down even more of wherever I'm still afraid of intimacy or feeling like I can't be held or met. It's just been the complete opposite every single time. And yeah, I'm just feeling really excited and grateful to be here. I ended up in just like 1 week, I'm just in LA, and now I'm in just this epic creation castle with horses around me, and just I literally feel like I teleported into my dream life. And sometimes I just have to slow down and be really grateful to have community, people to do comedy skits with, having Virginia here to just like flow with. And yeah, I'm just feeling really blessed, and it all happened in like a week. So
that's so much fun. And especially when I think people are thinking like, oh, 2020, it's the year of things falling away. But I think when you've been on your path for a considerable amount of time, I think you're probably having a different experience of it this year than people who haven't.
Yeah, I think it just supercharges things. So if I'm already like rocking with the alignment and looking at all my stuff, I think it can be there's so many layers and complexities to this, but one, my dad died, and that was like, a significant milestone in my life.
Yeah.
So that was hard. And then at the same time, I think because I'm so committed to truth and fully expressing myself, the opposite manifestations can happen. Like something incredible can happen so fast because that energy is just intense, and it's an amplifier of whatever's inside of you. So that's really what I see as 2020. It's a great amplifier of whatever's inside of you. And now that comes to the surface. So if you've been, sowing amazing seeds of truth and vulnerability, that time can really skyrocket you in ways that you wouldn't have imagined. Like, what I'm experiencing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the whole relationship with death, that's a really difficult one for us to navigate, isn't it? I mean, when I had my experience with my mom as well, it's like you are never really prepared for
oh God,
the
no.
whole thing. No.
Yeah.
In theory you understand it, but when you actually experience it, it's completely different.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely hurt. I mean, I felt pretty good about it. Just also because I felt his spirit wanted freedom. And that felt really good for me. And it was just a deeper knowing of just we're eternal.
Yeah.
And he just shows up for me in all the craziest ways. And I communicate with him telepathically, and we have conversations. So it's just, every time I said this before, where I was just like, I miss you, Dad. Every time I just hear, I'm right here. So on one level, it's just kind of hard for me to experience these things sometimes, because I can feel just, you're not gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it makes me feel excited that he can see me from a different perspective that's not filtered through humanness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also gives you that push as well to like be who you are as well, when you realize that, I
Yeah.
mean, what do you have to lose? Like, because there's going to be a stage when you are going to part your
Yeah.
your body at some point. So that's for me, one of the great motivators, I think, of death. That is like, well, would you like to be looking back and saying, oh, I didn't bother trying that because I was afraid to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a great calling forward of what's true,
Hmm.
and just a greater can provide that greater sense of urgency to just truly share what's on your heart, because you have that surreal experience of, well, I'm going to be dead.
I know.
Well, I as in the I, the
Yeah.
mind, the body.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, you can really use that to propel you in some awesome ways.
Hmm. For
Yeah.
your own self, do you feel like you're in what stage would you say you're in, a cocoon state, or where do you feel you are in your own process?
That's so funny you say that, because I was going to say butterfly.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just I feel like I'm a bit of both. I'm just a bit in the chrysalis, where
Hmm.
I'm just like emerging more and more. And I'm also feeling like I'm flying sometimes.
Yeah.
But if I were going to be totally accurate, I would say I'm kind of in that, yeah, bubbling of the chrysalis, excited to express, which I've been doing, and feeling like there's a lot more blooming that's going to happen,
Hmm.
which I'm totally here for.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting because I see similarities in my own life, like just being brought together with other people who are
Yeah.
resonating. And like for so long, I was very like what you were saying before we started recording, very much like on a solo path and kind of doing everything alone and doing
Yeah.
all my work. And I think it's
Mm.
nice now to get to places where we're able to be brought together with the right people to actually create together.
Oh my God. It's such a game changer for me, because
Mm.
I was kind of on the spectrum of, I don't know if I really want a roommate. I don't know if I want to live with anyone, because I just like to do crazy shit in the house and dance and sing. And this house is so filled with self-expression. And we have such down and dirty freaking conversations where we just get into the nitty gritty of everything.
Yeah.
And the space that we hold, in the space that this house, this creation castle is, it calls forward anything that's dormant.
Hmm.
So it's just a greater call to, like, whatever's not said right now is going to manifest or bubble up in some ways. So
Yeah.
it's just, everything just feels so amplified in this house and this co-creation that we all have, which is exciting for me. And at the same time, it just feels so held in such a space of grace and love and ease, which I'm like, I feel so grateful for, and I feel so excited about, because it's a greater sort of benchmark for me, or baseline of what my life can be, and like how I aspire to live my life. I aspire to live it full on, but also just with this underlying current of grace and ease that I'm really experiencing here,
Yeah.
that I'm desiring and allowing it more and more to just stabilize in my experience. So it's not like this tumultuous freaking experience where I'm really contracted and it's intense. It just feels, it's
Mm.
intense and full on, but the field that it's held in just feels so easy and
Yeah.
graceful. I think
Yeah.
that's why we've been able to transform so quickly, because there's just, all right, let's just turn every stone and just really see what's here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone's excited about it too, which is, we're all on that collective mission of just fully express what's going
Yeah.
on.
Because I think it can be hard for people who are kind of coming into their expression on their own. Like I think it's like what you're
Yeah.
saying. You've always kind of had different levels of support that will come in at different points. But
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what, what would you say to somebody who is finding it hard to express, like who, as in they've done a lot of their inner work, but now they're
Yeah.
kind of like at that stage where it's time to express it out into the outer world.
Mm. Yeah. Just find your own solace in your expression.
Mm.
Feel really good about your expression. For example, one of my clients, she is um, just having some issues with her job. And she, quite frankly, thinks her manager's a bitch. And she kept that hidden from herself. Like it was like stewing around in her mind. She was like, maybe I should just go confront her and do this and that. And what I suggested when we were on our session is just to give yourself space right now to just express, like, be messy, because it's like, I'm going to go from mind stewing to just immediate impulsive action. And I'm just like, give
Mm.
yourself a little bit of leeway to just, it feels like you have so many puzzle pieces inside of you, and it's like your puzzle's all like fucked up because you patched it up in a way that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But when you allow yourself to just, in a sense, of vomit out all those puzzle pieces, then we can look at it together and be like, what actually is here? And as soon as she started just expressing what was inside of her, she had a download of how to handle the situation because she didn't keep it hidden from herself. So I would
Mm.
say find a space, whether it's just an audio recording where you can just vent and share and just kind of get it all out, or journal, or find a friend or find a community that you really feel like can help you, and just ask them, hey, are you in a position to hold space for me? I have very like a very vulnerable expression I want to share, and I feel kind of messy and I don't know how to handle it. I would
Mhm.
love for you to be there and just hear me. I don't need any advice. I would just love to express and share. And it's so beautiful, like even a conversation like that can just bring two people so much closer, because they feel honored and touched and moved that you're desiring that from them, and you feel
Mhm.
so honored and met and held that they're here to hold space for you, and you can feel the joy that they have in even doing that. So I just see that such as a great way. It's like communion,
Yeah.
allowing yourself to come into union with another person where you're not hiding or being secretive, or not fully expressing, and just saying, here's what's on my heart, can
Yeah.
you hold space for it? And I just find the most beautiful connections ever
Mm.
come from that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we're real and true. But I love what you're saying about that undercurrent of ease and grace.
mm. Feels good, right?
Yeah, that's definitely something that's a very new experience for me.
Yeah,
And yeah,
same here in some
yeah,
senses.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because before I used to be, oh, just as you know, I'm here to save the world and I need to do it now.
Yeah,
Just the
no, no,
tension.
no pressure, right?
Yeah, exactly. Whereas now it's more of a case of like just relaxing into the journey and actually enjoying it. I suppose it's like bringing the feminine and the masculine together within us. It's like that division, that separation is
Yeah.
lessening more and more.
Yeah, it's like the masculine side. I mean, obviously there's levels, and like levels of consciousness when it comes to, there's like a masculine side that's more pure, then there's a side that's more wounded.
Mm.
And one's not right or the other, but for example, the wounded masculine side might say, I want to fix the world.
Hmm.
And then the feminine side's like, you actually don't need to fix the world because there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
And I say that not in the sense to say that there's not shitty things happening in the world, but I'm saying the moment you think there's something wrong with it is the moment you're condemning God's creation.
Hmm.
And the feminine would just be like, the world doesn't need fixing, it just needs love. Like, can you just love the world as it is?
Hmm.
Because I'm sure, and maybe you've ever experienced this with a man, where it's like you just want to share and just be loved and expressed, and then like right away they're like trying to fix it, and you're like, fuck dude, this isn't what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I know for myself, some of the most powerful experiences is just being held and safe in
Mhm.
your own expression. um but what was your question?
Just people who are struggling to express and on the, in the outer world.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
um well, I answered that one, and then there was this next piece where you were saying fixing, got
Fixing
to
the
fix the
world.
world
Yeah.
intention. Yeah. Yeah, completely agree. And it's so interesting to me that sometimes our just the way we see the world affects the world.
Hmm.
So in quantum physics, there's this thing called the observer effect, where it's what you how you observe something what affects what's being observed.
Yeah.
Like water, for example, people would send positive energy towards water, and the whole molecular structure, I think, became more coherent.
Hmm.
And then uh, did it to water with negative energy, and it just kind of went to this state of dysbiosis.
Yeah.
And to me, that just goes to show how we're viewing the world is also how we're creating it. Right. So
Mm.
if I view this world as like this sick place that needs fixing, I'm
Mhm.
always going to be a caretaker, no matter which way I slice it.
Yeah.
And
Big time.
the caretaker yeah, exactly. And the caretaker comes with its own pains, right? The caretaker will never feel fully, no matter how much they try and take care, they'll never feel fully fulfilled because the job's never done. You
Hmm.
can, because you're in that state of consciousness where you're always looking for the next thing to fix, the next thing to fix. And another is just, yeah, realizing that how you're seeing things can sometimes, you inherit this archetype that comes with its own set of issues. Like if you're a
Yeah.
caretaker but you avoid your own, I was helping someone in the house with this recently, where she had this desire to just retire her parents, and it was just so much fucking pressure.
Yeah.
and or make your family happy. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, that's even more pressure. What would be better is if you just kind of, mm, not in a mean way, but just kind of like effed off from your family and just did whatever really made you happy. So then you could be a demonstration of that and inspire them to shift, rather than being like, Mom, drink this green juice. Like, please read Tony Robbins' book. And then they're like, yeah, I'll get to it. And then you just end up in this frustration loop where you're just like, fuck, man, they're not getting it. They're not getting it.
Yeah.
And when we look deeper in the mirror, it's like, no, we're actually the ones not getting it, because we're trying to change someone because we think that there's something wrong with them on some level.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not honoring their spirit by being like, oh, actually, you're okay as you are. If you die smoking cigarettes, that's okay. Because if I don't feel, and it depends on your alignment. If your alignment says to intervene and to move and to help them, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But if you feel like you're leaving your alignment and leaving your true power to try and help or fix, I can guarantee you 10 times out of 10, the situation will end in fuckery. And
Yeah.
that to me is like the quintessential part of the cosmic joke. I'm trying to fix and I will never fix. But my ego says, if I just keep offering, free tickets to these online summits, then maybe they'll just come around and like just be awakened into Buddha consciousness.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, man, he just keeps ignoring it and watching fucking, The Simpsons. And you
Yeah.
just end up in this position where you're just always miserable and then controlling everyone. And then you just feel like shit. And then you're like, but I want them to be happy.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah, it's such a head fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love what you just said. We'll just take it back to that piece on like the observer, as in like, and I think this is something that I'm really coming to, instead of seeing the world in the chaotic image and, stuff that I don't want to see happening, that I'm looking at it from like what I do want to see happening, what I do want to
Yeah,
create.
exactly. Yeah. And that just feels so much more whole and empowered, and just really like how the change is going to be made.
Yeah.
It's not to be in any sort of denial or be in la la land. Like, there's shit going down,
Yeah.
but how we relate to said shit also is how we're relating to ourselves. And that can either end in a way that's to our detriment in a sense, or actually create the world we want to see by just being that frequency, which is, it's crazy how simple it is.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
our egos like to overcomplicate, don't they? And get us into all these muddles and twists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to save the world. The world's so fucked up. Or,
Mhm.
or, someone will be in a relationship and they're like, oh my God, I have to save my partner and I have to fix them. And it's like, sometimes the best thing ever is for you to get broken up with, and you're robbing someone of that experience because you're afraid to hurt them. And because you're afraid to hurt them and you don't speak your truth, you hurt yourself. So then you become a martyr.
Yeah.
And then you becoming a martyr doesn't help anyone. Then it makes you feel resentful. Then it bleeds into your relationship. Then the relationship ends anyways.
Yeah.
And it all could have been backtracked to the moment you just didn't speak your truth.
Yeah.
And that's what I see as 2020. It's the year of all those moments that we just like played a shitty game of chess being revealed to us. Like, oh, you probably didn't need to do that, or that wasn't the most effective way to speak your truth, or you didn't really honor yourself here. And that's just, the mirror is just so, 2020 vision, seeing clearly.
Yeah. Isn't it?
Yeah. And just feeling into what you actually want and what you actually desire, and allowing, I'm kind of forgetting the last thing. What was your question again? I feel like I have something powerful to say. Changing the world, relating to.
Yeah. So observing the world. So we're like focusing on what we actually want to create.
Oh, yes. It's,
Yeah.
And getting broken up with someone. What if they become a best-selling author because of the breakup and bounce back better than before? But because your negative egoic perception says, oh, this is a bad thing, I'm going to hurt them. Then you hurt yourself. Then you still hurt them because they can feel your soul's not a fuck yes to actually being in a relationship. Then you kind of end up in this like really uncomfortable spiral. Maybe you get tired more often, or you feel uninspired, or you feel lethargic, because those are all symptoms of you not actually speaking your truth or living in alignment. And then from that space, it's like, you don't realize the gift you're giving someone when you're just honest, because that breakup could have catalyzed the biggest transformation of their life. But because you were afraid to let them off the hook, you sort of, in a sense, stop them in that moment from realizing more of their own divinity or greatness that's dormant inside of them, because you're just the mirror for them and the catalyst for them. And speaking your truth is the most honoring thing you can do to anyone.
Yeah.
And I honor your soul when I speak my truth, no matter how effed up it may seem. And obviously doing so from a place of love and from a place of care.
Yeah.
But at the same time, not, you know, not biting your lip, not holding back, because realizing you're literally just telling them, I do not fully honor you or myself in this moment. And it's very masculine is what I'm saying, but also at the same time, you got time. And I have moments where I don't fully speak my truth or hold back. And my lesson in that moment sometimes is just to learn to have deeper compassion and don't put so much pressure on myself to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
So it's this interesting dance of like being fully devoted, and at the same time, like if you slip up, like all good,
Yeah.
like yeah, mommy and daddy aren't going to come punish you.
Yeah. You're not gonna get put in the naughty corner every time you make a mistake.
Right. It's only if you do it twice. If you
Oh yeah.
if you do it twice, then you're for sure in the naughty corner for life,
Yeah.
and just life will be
That's
a
it.
perpetual experience of hell.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Mm,
So, what would be your final words for everybody to move from fear to trust and to speak their truth and to create
mm,
the world that they want?
mm. Just honor yourself in any moment. Just think and feel what would honor yourself and how you can be of service, but doing so in a way that just honors you and everyone, whether that's speaking your truth, whether that's starting your YouTube channel. I feel this message coming through specifically for someone or multiple people. Just start your YouTube channel, start your YouTube channel, start your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So whoever that message is for, I'd love for you to message me. Let me know you got it.
Yeah.
And yeah, just realize you'll never get what you want from being in fear. No matter how much fear tries to convince you, you'll never actually get what you want. So you might as well take the leap anyways.
Mm.
Yeah. And I love you guys.
Thank you so much, Kyle. And where can everybody find you and check you out and see all your new upcoming creations?
Um, you can check me out on Facebook, Kyle Lipton, and just send me a message there, or yeah, follow me there. And then Instagram is at Kyle Lipton. Yeah, pretty simple. And yeah, stay tuned. There's some exciting stuff coming.
I can't wait. Well, I'll be watching with great excitement and anticipation for what you're creating, because it's so much fun. And what I love about your message is that, like, the transformation experience, you can have fun with it. You can play with it. You can, your inner child can come back into your life, and it doesn't have
Yeah.
to be this really serious, bloody pressurized thing of, you know,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
where we all fall into that from time to time.
Yeah. And I'll just to piggyback on what you said, I'll just say, yeah, we don't. What is annoying sometimes to me is like being in this deep process of inner work all the time. It's like, all right, cool. I'm going to print out 10 more worksheets and write this. And then I have to read this journal. And the cosmic joke is we're doing all of that to come back to a place of joy.
Mhm.
So it's like I'm doing my spiritual chores to only then be like, oh, I can actually just be joyful. So I just would say keep in mind what energy you're starting from. If you start from the energy of playfulness, even if you do quote unquote inner work, it has this undertone of just playfulness and joy. And realize that in speaking your truth, in sharing, and in being in that playful joy state, you can bring out your true self and other people's true selves. Because at the end of the day, like we really just want to play. We just want permission to play with each other. We want permission to just like be fully expressed.
Yeah.
So higher self, one of my best friends said this. He said, going towards higher self releases lower self problems. So going towards your expansion will instantly, honestly, so many problems can dissolve just from going in that direction versus like, I need to solve this thing at the level of the consciousness and just write this worksheet, read this book. And I'm not knocking that. And I've done all of those things and I probably will still do that at some point. But also realizing that I don't necessarily, that doesn't need to be the way I live my life all the time. Because it's freaking like, it's torture sometimes to feel like you have all this pressure to do all these things to check it off a list, only to realize all I really want is joy anyways and full expression. So inviting in just more playfulness that's what I wish for everyone here, is just to invite in more playfulness, more joy, more expansion into your life in a way that's easy and effortless and just might be uncomfortable, but because you're so devoted to truth and devoted to full expression, it gets to be held in that space of grace more and more. And yeah, that doesn't have to be so serious. Like, okay, you broke up. Okay, you spoke the truth. Whoopee. Like life goes on. and now you're just feeling glad that you allowed yourself to express rather than hold it back, even though in moments it can feel like the worst thing ever. But what I know for sure is that you've gotten through 100% of everything you've ever been to, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be here listening.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kyle, and I'm so happy that we came back again and this was the conversation to be had, so thank you so much.
Oh yeah, so much better.
I'm crazy for you.